seem right. Going from 4-bedroom to 4-door.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how anybody does it. It's amazing.
We are live, boys.
You're not on that?
Oh, no, yeah.
Wait, I gotta fix my hair.
That's my lot in life.
You look like a ninja. They'll never see you.
Did Purdue score yet? Purdue score?
I haven't got it turned on yet.
Are you streaming the game like?
Yeah, Penny is. She's got it on over there for
I'm
us.
to here in a
It
minute.
says I am, but I don't see it.
Can't remember my password.
Who are you going for? Notre Dame or Penn State?
Notre Dame.
No, Indiana team.
I think they'll be all right. And I think Ohio State too.
As long as somebody from the Big
There's
Ten
Joe
wins it all,
and-
I'm happy.
No.
So Penn State don't get it tonight.
Yeah.
Ohio, it's on
Travis.
Ohio State carries through.
Joe's got a beard.
Yeah.
Hi, Joe.
It's cold weather.
Yes, it is.
It
See, this
looks
guy's wearing a
nice.
cap in here. You know, he's cold.
Well, I thought I was gonna have issues getting through security because I forgot to take my battery pack out.
Oh, is that one of those heated?
Yeah.
Mine's in the truck. I put it up. Drained the battery already. Working in the warehouses.
A heated beam?
No, I think it's
No, my
fast.
jacket. Yeah, my jacket.
They're nice.
They are. Especially when there's garage
Straight
doors
water.
go up and down all the
Thank
time.
you.
Oh, we get a tow truck, I reach over, turn on high.
You gotta clean them out. Anybody else see
People are like,
I'm good.
aren't you cold?
We'll give you a tip later.
We ain't got much of a suntan.
Yeah. That's my son down there. That's for damn sure. Too cold.
Where were you before?
Yeah, Panama City.
So we are live.
And Purdue is live.
How we doing?
We're good.
Trying to get it on.
Everybody ready?
We're live streaming tonight.
Huh?
We're live streaming tonight.
Oh, that's great. What's that mean?
People at home can watch us on YouTube,
Live.
Oh, really?
live.
Oh, shoot. I didn't know that. I stayed in Florida. Okay. Call to order for Main County Area Plan. Everybody rise. Put a flag to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call, please.
Larry Langley.
Yep.
Bill Cox.
Here.
Ron Mack.
Here.
Brandon Ruth.
Here.
Barbara Phillips.
Here.
Bob Alexander.
Here.
Brian Stevens.
Here.
Joe Ellis.
I'm here.
Everybody. Good deal. Okay, looking over the minutes for our November meeting. We didn't have one in December.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion by Bob to accept the minutes. Second.
A second.
Second by Barbara. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. New business. Certification of members. What's that mean?
All right, Larry Langley, what's your physical address?
9937 North, 100 West, Perrysville, Indiana.
Joe Ellis,
5691 South State Road 71. Dana.
Barbara,
876 West, 700 South, Dana.
Ron,
2135 West, 800 North, Cayuga.
Brian,
1440 South 4th Street, Clinton.
Brandon,
2752 West State Road 234 Cayuga.
is that everybody?
No.
Phil?
Forgot Bob.
Bob, sorry,
1603 South 5th Street, Clinton, Indiana.
and Phil.
6489 South Coxville Road, Montezuma.
And Joe is on the board as a non-voting member. Because he was a Montezuma.
Joe, Joe, you said Joe. You
You
mean
meant
Phil.
Phil.
Phil,
Yes.
sorry,
Phil.
Phil, that's all I need. Yeah, so that we're all good to move forward.
Okay. Election of officers.
Currently, we have Larry Langley as president, Bob Alexander as vice, and Barbara Phillips as secretary.
Who wants to be president?
Kinda like the one we got.
Hmm?
Kinda like the one we got.
Me too.
Me too.
I would move we forgo election and retain officers as were in 2024.
I'd second that.
Motion by Joe and a second by Ron, that was you, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yep. To retain the officers as good enough. Is that okay with you, Bob? You're vice president. Who is vice?
Yes.
Bob. You okay with that?
Yes.
And I'm the secretary.
And you're
and I'm
saying,
okay with
yeah,
that.
you okay with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we need the attorney. Right now, our attorney is Ron.
Make a motion for Ron to stay on.
Motion by Bob to keep Ron on, and a second.
I'll second.
Second by Joe.
Nope, Brian.
Brian, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. BZA member.
That's me.
Am I correct? We need two?
No, just,
Two from our board to go to theirs?
hold that thought a minute.
Yeah, yeah. They got 5 members.
We only appoint one, the other is appointed by the county commissioners.
Okay, who's that?
Joe was our appointee last year for 2024.
Who's the county commissioner's appointment?
Barbara.
Yeah.
Doesn't that
And
go
you're
with
still-
my seat, I think? Yeah,
And you're still on it then?
yes. and
Okay,
I'm
so
with
we
staying.
just need one member.
Right,
Joe, you still want to stay on?
I'm accepting of continuing to serve there, yes.
I make a motion to accept Joe as remaining on the BZA.
Motion by Bob,
Second. Can I second even if I
Yeah,
haven't
oh,
been
yeah.
voted on?
second by Barbara, all in favor, for Joe, all in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, plat committee.
I'd have to go look. I'm sorry.
I don't even know who's on the
I
plat
don't-
committee.
And,
I don't know if we even did a plat committee last year.
I don't know. who
Yeah,
it is.
Ron's
thinking-
on it for sure.
Ron's on
Me
it,
and,
and
Phil, isn't
Phil
it?
Cox.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron and Phil Cox.
Bookends,
are
yeah.
two on it. Yes.
The bookends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yep, yep. And you guys gotta be on there. So, that's all we need, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Okay. Make a motion to keep Ron and Phil on there. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I need a second, Larry.
Second.
Oh.
Second.
Oh, who's you?
I'll second.
Bob.
Bob second. It sounds like a winner. Yep. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Does that take care of all the,
Yes.
yep. Wait a minute. When do we hire and fire you?
You don't anymore. I'm just here until I get fired. You have to ask that, Larry?
Oh, I just thought I would.
She carries a lot of many hats from the last meeting I seen.
So, we're ready for Brad now.
Okay, yeah. Public hearing on the Unified Development Ordinance. All yours, Brad.
All right, what's on the agenda tonight is a second round of public hearing on the Unified Development Ordinance. The former document that you adopted went forward to the county commissioners as per state statutes. They had a few concerns, and in those concerns ended up having multiple meetings discussing some of those possible changes. From those meetings, I gathered and they actually voted on the changes that they would like to have made, and those were actually included in this most recent version. So we have gone through the process of legally notifying the public that this public hearing is happening tonight. We've had the document available to the public for more than 10 days prior to today's meeting. It was published, like I said, and ultimately we're hoping to get a favorable recommendation again from the Area Planning Commission with the changes that are noted in this document. Now, the only changes that have been made to this document are the ones that are coded in red. You took a look at what's on the website, you would see those changes. They are a culmination of what the commissioners asked for, some Scrivener type errors that I found, and also Barbara and some others have found. We also, I found a few oversights that are included in this. I don't think anyone will take objection to that, but I will point those out tonight. And then also comments that were submitted by Apex. We included those in here per the county commissioner's instructions as well. A few things that have been changed in this that are not coded in red, just a few things, and that's like dates. We had 2024 as the likely adoption date. Now it's going to be 2025, of course. We changed the commissioners' names, adding Misty, that type of thing, but nothing substantive other than just making sure the record is clear and correct there. So everything else, though, has been coded in red. So above and beyond the document, I got a call from the city of Clinton, from their attorney. He and I talked on the phone. They asked for a few map changes just to the city of Clinton's map. One of those changes was a convenience store on the south side of town that we missed. They just wanted it changed from residential to show it as commercial. And then the corridor coming into town, across from Casey's, there's a row of houses. That was kind of hit and miss. Some were commercial, some were residential. They just wanted that whole strip right there at the entrance to the city to be commercial. For future development, they're seeing those houses turning over to commercial, so just pre-zone them as that. And then lastly is the corridor north of town. Gosh, I'm trying to remember what the name of the road is. Same thing is that there's kind of downtown businesses there, and we had shown some of those as residential and some as commercial. They just wanted the whole corridor to be commercial.
The Elm Street?
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
South Main. No. Yeah, North Main.
I don't have. I just need to pull up the map on my computer. Easier to. Anyways, they had talked with council members as well as the mayor and had made that determination that those would be more advantageous. So it's 9th Street, that north-south corridor
Yeah.
between Vine and Knowles.
Knowles, yep.
And even up to Maury Street, is that that corridor would be predominantly downtown commercial. So that was their requests. So that map has also been updated and was available 10 days prior to today's meeting as part of the advertisement that those maps are available for the public to take a look at. So what you really need to do first is open a public hearing, see if there's anyone that wants to comment on that document, the red pen changes that we've made, or the map. And if so, after you close the public hearing, as we'll discuss those, decide if any further changes are necessary. I'll go over the red pen changes for you just to make sure that you're aware of what has been changed here. I can really gloss over that, or I can go into detail on that. I know I'll be happy to do it either way. So with that, I'll leave it to you to
Okay.
start the public hearing.
Well, I'm gonna ask anybody on the board first if you guys got any more questions. Anybody, even you? Good. At this time, I'll open up for the public hearing. Anybody in the public's got any questions whatsoever on this, no matter what it is, please, let us hear it.
Anybody moving?
Nobody raising their hand, nobody moving. Okay, well,
Seeing none, hearing none.
seeing none, hearing none, we'll close public hearing. Need a motion probably on that, yes.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Barbara,
I second the motion.
second by Brandon. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay,
All right.
yep.
So going over the red pen changes, for those of you that maybe didn't follow along with what the commissioners' conversations included, there was a question of why do we need to have Area Plan Commission here as the Unified Development Ordinance's name. Honestly, it's really just the Vermilion County Unified Development Ordinance. I just was picking up on your former name of your ordinance. But we have struck Area Plan Commission as part of the formal name of the ordinance. It's just called the Vermilion County Unified Development Ordinance. So we made that global change throughout the document. Moving on, that was in Article 1. Moving on to Article 2, quite a bit of deliberation was had over general agriculture, whether or not we should have a 1 acre or 2 acre minimum lot area. Ultimately, it was decided to keep the 2 acre that was proposed by committee, and through the Area Plan Commission, the certified draft we kept it as is. But I just wanted to point out that that was something we talked about. We struck roadside sales from the permitted use, but added it as part of a temporary use section. So it's more or less the same thing, but instead of having a roadside sales day in, day out, 365, is that we have and we already had the regulations for the seasonal sale of farm products, and that was part of what the committee had recommended. We just didn't identify it correctly in here, so we just made it as a temporary permitted use. Because there are RVs that exist on lots, the commissioners were okay with having temporary special exceptions. So it would go through the BZA if somebody wanted to place an RV and stay in it for up to 6 months in a given year, seasonally. And this is outside of an RV park where they would be permitted year-round. But outside of a RV park, they would be able to stay 6 months. That would be added to the agricultural district. Now, we did add some regulations in Article 5 that say that they have to have some kind of proper means of disposing of waste. They have to have some reliable source of water. They have to have an operable kitchen, and just a few other things, just kind of the basics, is that somebody's not living in a truly substandard condition. So the idea is that the health department can approve waste disposal, or it can be just a septic system or a sewer system if they're in a jurisdiction that has them. So that was covered. And then we also added as a special exception bulk energy storage. We know that there's at least some proposals for those to occur here in the county, above and beyond tied to a solar project. Then moving on to Parks and Recreation, we added a couple other temporary uses that were in Article 5 already, but we hadn't recognized them in Article 2. So we're just saying that the sale of seasonal items is permitted, food trucks are permitted, again, to a limited extent. We had included it in Article 5, and if somebody had read that, they would know that that was permitted, but we wanted to bring it up here where it was more obvious if people are looking for that content. Moving ahead, in single-family residential R2, we actually had an error in there where we said that public sewers and water utilities were required. There's no other residential district that required that. That was something we just missed. We had changed all the other ones to say that it's only required when it's in proximity to those sites, which is our state statutes. It's not, we're not inventing that. It's actually, we're allowing septic systems and we're allowing wells except when they're in proximity to a public sewer or public water system where they do have to connect to by statute. Okay. Another one, institutional, we did allow those sale of seasonal items and food trucks. That was in Article 5. Again, we just brought it forward here to make sure people knew about it. Same thing about urban commercial, and same thing in general commercial. Just, again, recognizing that it was already permitted in Article 5 and bringing it up here to the front. In general commercial, though, we also had that sewer and water were required. Now, you do have some unincorporated areas where we use the urban downtown district, and they don't have sewer and water. So for those to grow or expand or to even be used, if they're vacant today and they came in for a permit, they don't have that, they would have gotten denied. So we don't want that to happen. It just says now that if it does exist, they have to connect. If it doesn't exist, then they don't have to connect. Same thing as all the other districts. Highway commercial, 2 changes. Same thing as those temporary sales, seasonal sales, and the food trucks is shown in the land use, the permitted uses as per Article 5. But we did add truck stop. That was an oversight. We did not add that. That should be a part of a highway commercial system. Now, we did put it as a special exception because highway commercial may be used at the Rise or down by Clinton, and maybe or maybe not you want a truck stop there. But at least a BZA should have the neighbors come in and just say, hey, is this okay or is this not okay? So that was added there. Industrial, again, we added the seasonal items for sale and food trucks that was permitted in Article 5. High intensity industrial, the same thing. Now we did add server farm to the I-2 district in the event that somebody comes in and wants to have a server farm. You really have to have fiber optic highways here. If you do, you might get one. If you don't, you probably won't, but nonetheless, that is a use that's starting to show up in some rural areas. All right, that is Article 2. In Article 3, which is overlays, we just added, for some engineering input, cathodically protected tanks. I just added or equivalent because there are other technologies that can protect tanks. And we added that in 2 different places. That's it for Article 3. Article 4, no changes. Article 5. Confined feeding was quite the topic as well. Some conversations there, but ultimately we just changed for poultry. We use the words chickens and turkeys, but because ducks and other fowl are used, we just substituted, struck those out and put poultry. You know, just a simple change, but nonetheless, that was caught. The commissioners did like the rest of that system as it was drafted. Driveway standards, that was another one that came up. Ultimately, the commissioners asked me to reach out to emergency services and get their feedback. So we talked to and offered conversations with all of the fire chiefs and emergency service folks. Long driveway standards are all about trying to make sure that the fire departments, ambulances can get to those homes if they're located at the end of a long driveway. If the house is only 100 feet off the road, no big deal. Even if the driveway is substandard, they park at the street and provide that emergency services from there. Interestingly, I guess I heard that there was at least 2 incidents just in the last couple of months where fire trucks were not able to get to fires here in the county. So it is a relevant issue. I had 200 feet in greater lengths. The fire departments wanted that to be shorter. They wanted to go down to even 100 feet. I thought that was too small. So I split the difference and I added 150 feet or longer. Driveways needed to be built to a standard that can hold a fire truck or an ambulance. Some other things that changed there is that we just recognized different types of turnarounds that would need to be at the end of the driveway, like a hammerhead. I had a loop, but the fire departments were okay with hammerheads or other types of turnarounds designated to be able to turn around a 50-foot long vehicle, which is not the longest vehicles we have in inventory for fire services, but it was sufficient enough. Weight bearing, I had 30,000 pounds. They said 50,000 pounds is more necessary for the tank, water trucks. We had, for width and turning radiuses, I had 45 feet. They asked for 50 feet of clear way in those driveways. They asked for a minimum of 11 feet of surface in that area. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 30 feet of clearway, 11 feet of surface, and 50 feet, a 50-foot turning radius. So you can't have a real hard left turn or a real hard right turn. You have to have a sweeping turn for those trucks to be able to make it around those corners. That's what the 50. Sorry. Obstacles is that tree branches, things that could prevent trucks from getting down there. It needs to be unobstructed for 20 feet in width and 14 feet in height is the request. Distance to the primary structure, so the trucks need to get within at least 30 feet of the primary structure. You know, they can't get that last 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, not a big deal, as long as they're within 30 feet of those primary structure. Accessory structures, there's no requirement. Let's see. Near the property, or near the primary structure, they are asking for the ability to have 2 emergency services vehicles being able to be parked side by side, so that you can get 2 fairly close to that structure, not just 1. If they all have to be in a train line, a conga line, they may not be able to get the most important equipment up front where it needs to be. That's the idea. Gates are fine, but they need to have a Knox box on a post within 4 feet of the gate's latch side of the gate, and be at least 4 feet above the ground where emergency services can see it and get to it. You're not familiar with Knox boxes, it's just a key box. Fire departments have a master key to those and can get in and get through the gate. Signage, asking for any driveway that has that long driveway, meets the long driveway standards, that the districts that have jurisdiction over those areas can ask for a sign for pre-existing. So this, all that I've talked about, only applies to new development, new permits for new structures. But for their purposes to know in a hurry, is this a long driveway and can we safely get down it, is that they're able to post a sign that says that this driveway cannot be accessed by emergency service vehicles, and put that out at the street. So the idea is that they don't want somebody inadvertently trying to drive down one of these driveways and getting stuck, which then complicates the rescue or fire suppression, whatever it may be.
Who's responsible for putting this sign out?
So the sign cannot exceed 1.5 square feet. Needs to be let's see. I don't know if I stated that, but it, in my opinion, it's something that the homeowner should not be responsible for. It's for public information. It's just like a speed limit sign or anything else. It's a safety sign that should be out there. So we can put that in there, that it would be the responsibility of the fire departments or local government to do it. But that would be need to be a change if you wanted to discuss that and make a recommendation to the commissioners. We can do that. And then variances. So any property owner with a driveway greater than 150 feet can ask for relief from the standards, just like any other thing. But we do say here that it's not just going to the BZA, it's actually the authority having jurisdiction also needs to be contacted if you're seeking a variance from the standards, so that they definitely know to come to the meeting and weigh in on it. And they may be totally fine with it. It's 155 feet, it's a wide driveway, they may not care at all. But if it's 600 feet and it's going to be a really windy path through a woods, they at least have a chance to come in and say, this is a good idea or not a good idea. So this is a big change, but based on the relevancy that I've heard from fire chiefs and emergency service representatives, it is a big issue. And most people that build back off the roads don't realize. They don't even think about it until that emergency comes. They've tried to serve some fires with many hand lines. They're just junctioning hand line after hand line after hand line, but they're losing pressure as well every time they do that. So they're having a really hard time serving those, providing services to those fires from the roads.
And this was our local fire chief.
Yes. This is, again, this is truly life safety types of stuff. And I know it's a burden for people that maybe want to live off the beaten path, but if they want emergency services, this is what they feel is necessary, minimum standard they feel necessary to actually get those trucks back there.
When we say the authorities having jurisdiction,
that's the fire district.
Fire department.
Yeah, whoever, those do change over time. So fire district, maybe a township partners with a city, maybe the township someday in the future decides to take it on themselves, whatever. So those can change over time, so we just use that generic term.
Okay.
You said the commissioners have already seen that?
They did see the original draft, and they were not comfortable adopting it without having had the emergency service folks weigh
So
in
they
on it.
Our local
adopted,
guys.
they've already adopted it with this.
Well, they have given their blessing to
Okay.
go forward with redrafting it based on changes that would be proposed by the emergency service folks. So, for instance, I had a 30,000 pound vehicle. They
Right.
didn't know if that was good enough or not. And as it turns out, 50,000 is a better number. So their instincts were right that the numbers did change a little bit, but the principle they supported. All right, so moving on to, let's see. In the environmental standards, we just, things you cannot discharge beyond property lines, pesticides and herbicides were added, but that is not including of the agricultural, at least that was requested, but matter of fact, we probably should get a motion from you to state that the pesticides and herbicides would not apply to agricultural applications, incidental occurrences by agricultural operations. The goal is always not to have drift going across lines, right? But I don't want a farmer that had a little bit going past a property line to be cited with a zoning violation. There's already agricultural regulations, correct, that say what you can and can't do. What I'm mostly concerned about is when individuals are, oops, I just sprayed the neighbor's trees that I hate with, brush killer, what, that would something like that. So it's that inadvertent stuff or the intentional stuff that we would like to cover. It was not meant to be agriculture.
I was gonna say, we were already covered on the agriculture side.
Correct.
As far as terminology, though, pesticides is all encompassing. I mean, a lot of people think that when you say pesticides, you're saying insecticides possibly.
Okay.
But pesticides includes insecticides, herbicides, rodenticides. Any kind of side
Okay.
that kills something is considered a pesticide. So pesticides is all encompassing and includes herbicides. So just
Yeah, I'm wondering if-
terminology there.
should we just have it be pesticide?
That would be the correct terminology.
Okay.
But as long as people understand that, you know, like I say, a lot of people think pesticides refers to insecticides, but that is not correct.
Gotcha. Okay. So that would be one that we need a verbal change on before we would send this on to the commissioners. So take note of that.
What section was that again, Brad? Is that
That is in-
524?
Yes, 5.24 on page 5-25.
So is that a motion you need?
We will need that after the conclusion of going over this, yep. And that's same thing with anything else that I've talked about. If you want to make any subtle or significant changes.
On
you
who's
can do
responsible for the
The
signage?
signage, yep.
What's another one?
So we're gonna make one grand
You can do
motion at the end.
One motion.
Yep, you can, or you can do it a la carte as well. That's completely up to you. The commissioners were concerned about the fence heights for agriculture. This is for the farmstead, not for confinement of animals. But for the farmstead itself, we had a limit at 5 foot 6 inches. And they wanted it to be up 1 inch or 1 foot, so 6 foot 6 inches.
Say that again?
For farmsteads in agricultural districts, not the confinement of confinement areas for animals. They wanted the height limitation to be up 1 foot higher than what we had before, which was 5 foot 6 inches.
Meaning
They wanted
you,
to be
meaning you
6
can't
foot.
go over that?
Right.
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Limitation.
Yeah, and it's really, we're saying the 6 foot fence. The extra 6 inches is just that fudge factor to make sure that, you know, if they err a little bit, they're still within tolerances. Yeah. All right, continuing on. We had a landscaping standard. It was misunderstood, I think, and I just wanted to make sure it was clear as can be. There was just a few minimum requirements for landscaping, but it wasn't clear that that does not apply to plants that people elect to put in their yards. So the ones that are required, the very few that are required, we were asking for a 1.5 inch caliper tree or a 5 foot in height evergreen tree for those required plantings. But I added, under no circumstances does this standard apply to things you elect to plant. So if you want to put in whips or smaller plants that you buy at the hardware store or wherever, that is totally fine. We're not regulating people's landscaping other than new construction. And I think the requirement is that for every new house that gets built, is we're asking for one deciduous tree to be planted anywhere on the lot. That's it. So, and that tree would need to be a 1.5 inch caliper tree or a.
What type of tree? What type? Citrus?
Deciduous.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Leaves in the-
canopy type trees, yeah.
I like citrus though. That's good.
Citrus trees, awesome. We can get that to work.
I can jump through hoops. I
And
want
then-
lemons.
And then in commercial, we just ask for one deciduous tree per acre with an absolute max of 3. So even if they're developing 50 acres, they're still only going to be asked to plant 3 trees anywhere on their lot. And those would have to be that 1.5 inches. So that's the main standards. And then we do have buffer yards when we have something.
If you're gonna say to plant a tree on property, shouldn't you tell them where to plant it?
Honestly, in most ordinances, we do. We say it has to be in the front yard or has to be in the side yard, something like that. But
Why don't you just tell them to put it underneath the power line? That's where most of them is.
They are a
That's where
magnet for
most of them
that.
plant them.
Get an automatic trim.
Yep, never
Yeah.
fails.
They'll take
Here's
care
the
of
other
it.
thing is that if
Tree
it
service
dies or
improvement.
is diseased or gets cut down, hit by a car, whatever, in the future, it just has to be there on the day you get your occupancy permit. After
Okay.
that, it doesn't matter.
You don't have to water it or anything, try to keep it.
Right. The point though is that
Breaks my heart.
some people will let them die, and that's fine, but overall, you'll probably have 80% of them that will survive and that will be part of the aesthetic of your community. Sign standards came up for agriculture particularly. RJ asked that we allow ground signs, permanent ground signs on any property. So we added that, and that can be a commercial sign in any agricultural area. And it's one sign. It can be double-sided. If you have an exceptionally large lot with 1,000 feet or more of frontage, you can actually have two, but they have to be at least 500 feet away from each other. So two on large lots. Sign area is 50 square feet. Height is up to 10 feet above the ground. Location has to be at least 10 feet from a right-of-way edge or 25 feet from the center line, whichever is greater. And no illumination. So that's what was added for sign standards. Open space, residential. We bumped all of those special temporary signs from 7 days to 14 days. They can be up to 14 days continuously and up to 30 days for the whole entire year. So you could have two signs up for 14 days over the course of a year, but there has to be a break. 14 is the limit for any sign. And then if you wanted to have another one later in the year, you could have another 14 days or up to 30 in total. So that's just to accommodate all kinds of things that might happen on somebody's property. So we doubled that. In the solar power plant standards, we really based all of the changes on what Apex was asking for. I did not make the changes verbatim as per what they were asking for. However, I think I encapsulated all elements, and I think I got confirmation that they reviewed it and had no objections to the new language. I just did it in a subtly different way to be more encompassing of other possible developments that might be coming. And also to try to be more encompassing of evolutions that may happen as well. So I think they're okay with that. Nods? Okay, just be sure. That's what I gathered from their email. But that includes just some clarification on bulk energy storage. There were concerns about, because those entities legally will be two different things that will operate the battery storage and then the solar. They wanted it to be really clear that those could be two separate entities. And it does not have to be one individual entity. So we clarified that. We also just said that the agreements with the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator did not have to be, the power purchase agreement didn't have to be executed prior to application, but it needed to be provided prior to issuing permits. So asking for that at the time of them coming in for an application is just not the way things are done, or it's a really difficult thing to do that far in advance. Same thing with the construction mitigation and damages. Mitigation of damages and inconvenience. Roads are going to be closed, if there's going to be impediments for traffic and that type of stuff. We asked for a preliminary plan at the time of application, but we need a final plan before permits are issued. So there's just a little bit of staging there instead of it all being up front. Okay. Temporary uses, I mentioned before that those accessory dwellings, RVs that may be parked in agricultural district, asking that they have the basic living features. They need to have a bedroom, a bed and a bathroom. They need to have a sink, stove, refrigerator, just the basics that you would need to live there for up to 6 months. They have to have some source of electricity, they have to have some way of handling waste, and they have to have some way of getting water, besides buying jugs of water from the store. And that's it for Article 5. Nothing in Article 6, nothing in Article 7. Well, there's one thing in Article 7, which is subdivision regulations. There was a reference to AASHTO standards, which are engineering standards for highways. The request was to make a reference to the Indiana Department of Transportation's standards instead, that are more calibrated for Indiana. The AASHTO are national standards and aren't always the best fit for Indiana roadways. So that was a clarification.
Having done that there, I mean, did you go back and maybe look over the documents, see the references to federal or nationwide standards that aren't as appropriate as Indiana standards? Or?
Honestly, I just took the word of that engineer. Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with them, and their AASHTO standards are a massive volume of documents because they are trying to, Hawaii, Alaska, and everything in between. That's what they're trying to address with that.
Right.
Whereas the Indiana Department of Transportation standards are based on AASHTO, but it's been like cherry picked from those standards. So they are very similar in a lot of ways, but without all the extra fluff that's not relevant, is how I had it described to me. In Article 9, we added a phrase or a paragraph that just says that you have the ability to correct errors when they're non-substantive. So if we make some spelling errors or comma grammatical errors, if there's something that to you is clear but to somebody else isn't clear, we can write it in a more clear way. As long as we're not changing the standards, we can do that. So that's what that says. And then lastly, Article 11. A few definitions changed. We added a definition for animal landfill that's based mostly on what the state statutes say, even though they address it in multiple places and define it differently. We kind of melded those together to explain what that is. Bulk energy storage was defined. We had explained it in the regulations, but wanted to actually add a definition for somebody to have one single point to understand what we're talking about with bulk energy storage. We clarified the definition for dwelling unit and making sure that like a temporary structure, an RV, something like that, could not just be, hey, that's my dwelling unit. It doesn't have a kitchen, doesn't have a bathroom, doesn't have anything. So we just wrote it to say that it has to have these core features to be considered a permanent dwelling unit. Gas station was not defined, so we went ahead and defined the term gas station that's used in the document. Public park was not clear as to what was truly included in a public park, so we added a little bit of language there. Recreational vehicle, RV, we again kind of defined that, cleaned up the definition for that. And the very last two things, we defined truck stop and we defined structure height. We had structure height in there before, but we did not define how it's measured. So we just added that it has to be measured from the average elevation around the property. So if there's a fairly flat surface, you're just going to measure in one spot and see if the structure height meets that. The slopes thing, you'd probably take one measurement from the back, one from the front, and average those out, and then you're going to get a good sense of what the maximum height is. Truck stop was defined because we added it to the highway commercial, and that's a wrap.
Thank you.
Try to do that as fast as possible.
Anybody got any questions? I do have one question.
Yeah, please.
And I read this whole thing, but I don't remember seeing anything about fracking. Is there anything in the ordinance about fracking?
Nothing specific that I can recall either.
I don't either, and I just, I don't know, somebody brought that up to my attention. And,
So the way this ordinance is written in the Article 1, it does say that any use that is not identified in here is not a permitted.
okay.
So you do have that. You did not have that in your old ordinance, but it is in here, just to make that clear.
Okay.
So it does not mean they can't come in and try to argue.
Right.
They qualify for it somehow, but for the most part, would not be a permitted use.
That'd just be a variance request, right?
Well, we do not allow use variances in here either. The reason for that is the state statutes, the test to be able to qualify for that just really cannot be met by anybody. It's such a high bar that, and if a BZA is granting those, they're probably breaking the state statutes. So we just say they're just not permitted. Now, what would happen if I were somebody who wanted to come in and ask for fracking? I would either come in as a planned unit development, even though it's a single use, is you're writing a special ordinance just for that property, do what you want to do, which would require plan commission and county commissioners rezoning of that property. A pretty tough process to get through. Or I would try to get a text amendment made to the document where you would add it as like a special exception to the I-2 district, something like that. So petitioners can ask for changes to the document, but they also ask for that PUD. Is really the only two options they've got. If it's something that somebody comes in and sits down with you guys and says, hey, this is something we're hoping to do here and it's not in the ordinance, you can initiate a change to the ordinance too to accommodate. Those are all options that they would have.
I think there was another change that we made when it was in regards to confinement operations and how far they needed to be away from residences or residential.
That was actually what was sent to the commissioners, so that was included in the original draft to them. So that did get included.
We already made that change.
We did.
How did the deep well carbon sequestration fall out in the final ordinance?
So the final request from the commissioners is that we file with the local judge here for what is it called? Gosh, I'm just forgetting the words. A determination. Basically presenting the case, both sides, to the local judge to see if we are in error of federal law, because that's what's being claimed, that we are overstepping what is believed to be exempt because of our pipeline laws, federal pipeline laws. And so right now the language all has stayed in here. Nothing has changed. And the idea is to take that to a judge, and if it's essentially a friendly challenge to have it play out and get a judge's opinion about whether or not this would stand up in court or not. They say it would, we'll keep it in. They say it's not going to stand up in court, we'll take it out or make the amendments, and that would come back to you as a set of amendments. But right now it stays in.
Is it before a judge now?
It's not. We have not filed yet, but that's the idea.
I thought it was filed.
Oh, has it been?
Did you file
No, it would have been something that the county attorney filed. I thought he filed it.
Okay, it may have been. I've not been made aware of that. Our goal is to get a land use law attorney here in Indiana. I'm reaching out to one guy in particular to see if he will come and help represent the county in that argument, and then I'm sure Mr. Zeller would be the person that would be presenting their side of the case.
But that doesn't happen before the commissioners could go ahead and adopt this, and that could be an amendment.
Yes. So here's a couple things that I'm not the attorney here, so I'm just speaking from what I know. I've asked a few land use law attorneys in previous months, and just said, is there any way somebody can sue a community for adopting an ordinance, just for adopting the ordinance? And the answer is no. At least their off-the-cuff opinion was no. They have to be able to, they have to file and be turned down. They have to then exhaust the options that they have with the BZA. So let's say that by the ordinance, Penny says, oh, we can't permit that. They can ask for a variance. And after the variance, if they get turned down again, if they feel like the ordinance is what's the problem, they can sue in whether or not it's legally valid or not. But somebody has to be an aggrieved party to be able to sue for language that's in this document. You can't sue just because you don't like it. But that has been threatened, that if you adopt this, we're going to sue you. I don't know what grounds. I'm not the attorney again, but we don't believe that that's actually true, that they would have grounds to file for that. But maybe they do. I just don't know. So those are things we're exploring. But here's the other thing, is that if the project that's before the county right now, if it truly is exempt, if somebody, whoever decides finally that it's exempt, the problem is that I don't think it's right to take it all out. I think you issue those permits if you're told by a judge that you have to, because there's up to 4 other projects that we've heard about that are interested in doing the exact same thing that are not part of the state's enabling legislation that exempts the current. So having these in here for the other 4, I still think is a valid reason to keep it in here. So, again, we just got to sort that out. But as for right now, it's staying in.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, some other questions?
Okay, we need to make a motion on, I don't know even how to say it, on the pesticide and the signage. Both of those.
Yes, so let me get to in the driveway standards. Let's get the section in the motion. So in section 5.20 driveway standards, the motion would be to change section G8 to add a phrase stating that the fire department and or local government jurisdiction would be responsible for the cost and installation of the signs. And then the other one, where was that?
Yeah. But we had an option on that jurisdiction at local, because I don't think I want to get into just me with what I do outside here in the city. I just don't think I would want to get into that sign. I think leave it, and then, like you said, I thought you said there was an option. You can just leave it and then let them work that out.
You can, for sure.
Let the jurisdiction, go forward, and then they can come back and ask for amendment to this through us to send on to commissioners. Because every one of those jurisdictions could be different on how to proceed with ensuring that sign's there. Yeah.
They don't even have to install the signs. It's only if they feel like there's a true public safety issue and a risk that they're going to get called.
Right.
And they may phase it in over 10 years. They may put up 2 signs this year and a couple more the next year and a couple more the next year. So it's really up to them. But should we state that it's not up to the homeowner to do that, or do we?
To protect the homeowner.
What's that?
To protect the homeowner of all things. If you want to impose onto somebody's property and tell them they need to, like that, when they just came and got a permit, it doesn't say, I'm pretty sure the permit to build my house that has, you know,
Yeah.
200-foot lane, is not gonna have anything in there that strictly says you need to put a sign.
So if Penny was presented a property that was being developed and it was gonna meet this standard, then I think it can be required of those new construction
Right.
situations, but that would only be if they got a variance, because otherwise they meet these standards and they wouldn't have to put the sign out.
Right.
So I would hope that the BZA, if they did grant leniency there, the fire departments really did feel like it still is a bad situation, is that they can have the sign installed per the BZA's requirement.
But would that be the individual fire departments, or would that be our emergency management folks?
I think it's, ultimately, I think it's the fire chiefs that make the decision versus emergency management. But if they want to delegate it internally, they could do that too.
I just question in my mind, if somebody has a situation and they know the sign has to be put up, how many months is it gonna get kicked down the road before?
Right.
It's your job to do. No, it's your job to do.
Right. The reality is that if they have a loan on that property, or if they have insurance on that property, neither one of them would likely have granted a loan or be willing to insure that property if they knew
That they didn't
that the
have
fire
access.
trucks can't get there, emergency services
Right.
can't get there. So, you know, honestly, I think a lot of people build these and don't even think about it until the situation happens. So this is a way to kind of publicly inform that, hey, we're concerned about your property. I hope you're concerned about your property. Can we work together and get this fixed? That's what I hope ultimately happens.
Yeah, I'm all for the new construction.
Yeah.
Checking it now. You would hope the local jurisdiction, which doesn't really define the fire chief or Vermilion County Emergency Management, or, you know, that's about the two agencies,
Yeah.
doesn't really define, and where does the cost of that sign come from?
Right.
And the cost of signs it's not cheap if you ever had to go out and do regulatory signs.
Right.
Which, that you're putting this in regulatory.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the sign costs, you know, 1 square foot sign,
Yeah.
double-sided,
Mm-hmm.
what that would cost, but yes, it is a cost. So I will entertain whatever motion you want to, on that. We can leave it as it is, or add something to it if you want.
Did you want to add the language that's not required of the homeowner?
My very initial question was, can we just leave it as is? And then down the road, if it comes to concern, then I think that can be amended, you know, if anybody questions that, or if the jurisdiction agency would like to say, hey, this
Right.
is coming to concern of us right now.
Right.
5.24 is the pesticide herbicide one. So
Okay.
you're looking for that, Brad?
Yep.
I mean, I'm fine with leaving it as is.
Yes.
Okay. So the motion would be to
Leave as
do a
is.
favorable recommendation, and then we have the change for the environmental standards, which is the pesticide
Just clarification.
clarification, just saying, striking the one and adding and keeping just pesticide.
We want to vote on them separate, or guys want to do them all one night?
As a favorable with the changes,
Yeah.
with the
It's one change, striking herbicide,
site, yes.
because we have the word pesticide.
Right.
And then I would just want to state that not applicable to agricultural operations, only because it's already covered otherwise. So it's really meant for just individual owners to another neighboring property, not so much the mass spraying for agriculture.
Is that going to be specifically annotated next to pesticides, so not that paragraph in the
Correct.
article. Okay.
Pesticides not applicable to the agriculture application.
Right.
Yes, I would put A1 and agricultural agricultural operations in A1 district. A2 is confined feeding, so it's again, it's not so much relevant there.
Penny, you got that written down?
I'm right.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I also made
I wasn't
the
going, I wasn't going nowhere until you.
listen to him again.
And I will make note that Barbara handed me a sheet today just saying there's a few Scrivener type errors again that we have that paragraph that says we can do
Right.
those.
Me again.
We'll catch those.
I'm totally behind that.
Anything that's non-substantive that we find as we're polishing the document, getting it ready for publication.
So just as a matter of order, now do we need to just say we make a motion to approve the ordinance with the change?
Yep. You're certifying it with a favorable recommendation
And
for
with
adoption.
the noted changes, do we need to?
And the note changes would come in our discussion to make it really simplified. Does anybody have any, is everybody in agreements with the change on the agriculture application with just the one definition, pesticides? If nobody has a disagreement, then we know, okay, that's a change. And then the other one was the signage, then
But we said we're gonna leave the signage like it is now.
leave it alone. So
So we really just,
so nobody's making any changes except for what we discussed right there.
yeah.
So then we would just move forward, I believe, with accepting the changes as discussed in favorable and moving it on.
Was that a motion?
Was that
That's a motion.
Sounds like a-
I second that motion.
Can you repeat that?
Yes, I can, with the changes.
I second it without repetition.
Motion by Bob and a second by Brandon. Penny, you ready for it? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Good enough?
Yep, good enough.
So what happens next? And it goes to the commissioners at their next meeting,
Their next available meeting. So they have another meeting here next week,
yeah, on the
the
14th.
15th, 14th.
15th.
We are likely not going to be on that agenda, but hopefully the following one. They have to have proper notice as well, the
Right.
items that are going to be on their agenda. And I think it's too short of a notice at this point to definitely be on their agenda, so we'll probably be shooting for the following one.
I requested to be on their agenda.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
I was
The same
thinking-
time we advertised this, we
Yes,
requested
it
to be
was.
on their agenda.
Okay,
So it's my understanding that we are on the
okay,
agenda,
great.
for the 15th at 6 o'clock.
Have they moved that meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
it was supposed to be the 14th and.
Now it's moved to the 15th.
Are the new meeting times all on the calendar now?
No. At this meeting, they'll set the rest of the meetings for the year because we have, I don't know when.
And was some dispute about when they want to meet.
Well, they can't be during the day, can they? Is that right?
That's what they're
That
concerned
was the
with.
bone of contention.
Yeah.
So they will make that announcement at that meeting when their other meetings are gonna be scheduled.
So we will present this to them at that meeting.
That is my understanding, yes.
Can you follow up to make sure that we're on
Yes.
the agenda?
I'm 98% positive we're on the agenda, and I will verify tomorrow and let everyone know.
For what they normally do, they will not likely adopt it at that first meeting. They will probably introduce it into the record and then,
Have that be the first reading.
yeah.
And I know somebody on that, in that group said we don't adopt them on the first reading. Like they can, but they don't usually.
I think they have to suspend the rules and everyone has to be in favor of suspending the rules.
Yeah.
But and I'm okay with that.
Will they get a copy of it before that meeting?
They've been given this copy. So we will communicate to them that this has been certified. That should be done formally. Penny should put that in this correspondence, official record.
Yep.
Get that to them.
Because often I see that they say, well, we didn't have time to look at it, or we just got it today, and even though it's something we've talked about for several months, so just to make sure that they understand that it's there now, go look at it. And the only one I would say would have some concern with that might be Misty, just because she's new and she hasn't been involved in it at every step.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very much a possibility. Hopefully, because they have been made aware of all the red pen changes in here. They got notice of it just when you did. So hopefully they've started to take a look at it.
Well, thank you, Brad, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Brad.
well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Okay, before we move on to any claims, I'm gonna open up for public hearing. We got more people here than we normally do. Just curious if somebody had a question or something out there tonight. If anybody's got anything to say, we'd love to hear it from you. We don't normally see anybody in the audience, but you're more than welcome to stand up and speak.
We just, as a group, want to say thank you to each and every one of you for looking out for your citizens. I know times have been kind of crazy here lately, but we truly do appreciate you putting the citizens first, hearing their voices, and moving forward. I wish that the state and federal would do that much more often too, but you guys have really touched my heart, because I do not live in Vermilion County. I'm right on the line. I want to jump the line and come up with y'all. But you've taken the time to listen, and I know that some have been supportive of this project. They see it as an economic development, you know. And I see that. I've researched that point. I've also researched the dangers. And but you're willing to listen, and that's what matters. That's what matters to every one of those out there. And I think that's why you've gained a lot of respect from your community. And I wished I lived in this county. I really do. So thank you.
Thank
She
you.
can give you a building permit.
Come on over.
Apply for annexation.
Pardon?
Apply for annexation.
You know,
Don't
I have
That's a bad word.
thought about that. And it's, I've lived
Can you
there all
walk
my
us through
life.
that,
I'm
Brad? 'Cause I
like the
think you're
8th
that,
generation of my family. And so our farm's very, very important to us. But I tell you what, this whole situation has opened my eyes. I've always trusted my elected officials, and it's really broke my heart to know what's been going on. And like I said, I don't expect us all to agree. I don't. But I expect people to listen to one another. I've spent over a year of my life researching this. And if nothing else, it comes down to property rights. If they can take my land, they can take your land.
Yep.
And we
Exactly
should
right.
have a say. We should truly have a say. This is not the government that's providing us something for the good of us all that we can use, like a road. I have no problem with that. This is a private company who's making billions of dollars. And we're struggling to pay property taxes, keep our families fed. And these guys are not from around this area. And to tell you the truth, their citizenship, I think it's either, they may have dual citizenship, but they don't have our interest at heart. And I'm so happy that you do. Even if we're on different sides and the economic growth, I see it, but 100 jobs is not worth running our community. And you guys are not benefiting at all. I think there's been some kickbacks in Bible County that you guys aren't getting. It's just wrong. But thank you. We appreciate it.
Just contact your local congressman.
I have done that.
Yeah, I think his name is Morrison. Just
But the
give him a
problem is-
call, and
Not
I'm
for
sure
very long.
he'll be
Not
glad
for
to
very
talk
long.
to you.
But you hold
Oh, but wait a minute.
But you
He
heard
ran
that he
out the back
was
door,
he's been
didn't he?
appointed to the DNR, the head of the
Yeah, and
DNR,
let me tell you
to
this,
protect our resources on a state level.
Yes.
and
The
the
hypocrisy of that is disgusting.
You're
Yes.
exactly right,
Disgusting.
because the DNR actually was working on some rulemaking, and it was put on hold right after the election. And I knew something was up, because somebody at the DNR called me and said they had put everything on hold as far as the rulemaking. And then I found out that he was appointed to that, and I'm like, that's God. That's God. So
Ain't that
just
amazing?
remember, ADM had a leak over there.
Yep.
And the EPA did not shut them down. But luckily, this permit is still on appeal. The adjudication office has not decided on their permit yet. So we will wait and see where that goes. Thank you.
Good, thank
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to approval of claims.
Yep, we've paid the ground rules. It was paid for you guys. I did order the yard signs from Ace
Oh, yeah.
Signs. I'll have those next Monday in office. I got some office supplies.
How many yard signs did you get?
2.
Okay.
And they're, I can't tell you the exact measurement now, but they're large. Not huge, but it takes 2 H hangers to put them in the ground. So they're bigger than an election sign.
Okay.
Twice the
They're
size
not
of an
going to just
election
blow
sign.
away in the wind.
Correct, correct.
Now, should I read for 2024 the estimate construction costs, just for the record?
And you can,
You
sure.
know, permits, we had 81 permits for the 12-month period. Residential construction costs, 6.33 million. Agricultural, 1 million. Commercial construction costs totaled up to $1.78 million. Not too bad. And on the backside, it was really a good comparison there. 25-year comparison. This year was definitely a down, believe it or not, on certain things. Cost of permits were down they haven't been down this low since 2013.
A lot of that is, because we issued more permits, 81. A lot of them are only $25 because of those
Yeah.
portable buildings they're pulling in. And
Yeah.
there's nothing to inspect on, it's just
They're there.
tax roll, yeah.
Interesting, that back page is 25-year history of the county.
Mm-hmm.
Very
It is.
interesting.
2008, right?
All right, the other thing, Larry, I need you to sign is the contract with Ron. And you've got a claim for his first quarter payment.
And he gets paid in advance? That's nice. I like that, I like that.
I make a motion to accept the claims.
Yeah.
Second.
Bob, second by Ron, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And my ink pen quit on me, super duper. Yeah, what the heck is that? That work?
Okay.
Blue ink, did that work? Right,
You get to sign,
yeah, blue ink will
I don't
work.
care, yeah,
You want my black
it's
one?
fine.
Yeah,
He just
yeah, just better
Belly
just in
gun.
case.
That's a nice pen.
Blue.
All right, thank you.
Make sure all them are done, okay. Motion for adjournment?
Wait, I got one thing.
Oh,
Larry.
wait a minute,
Yeah.
Ron's got it.
Hey, as a matter of record, about a year ago, maybe it's longer than that, the Drainage Board asked APC for permission to come up with a unified comprehensive drainage ordinance for the county that tied into the stormwater management plan and added some verbiage into tying it into the floodwater plain management plan. We went to the council and asked for money to do that. We had a quote to have that rewritten by an engineering company. And it was going along fine till one of our previous commissioners got involved. And so we want to revisit that in 2025 and resubmit that. Now, we have the money in our budget to do it this time, but anyway, the engineering company has advised us to once again ask permission from the APC to proceed on this project before we go any further. So I just need permission to give him the green light to go. So what it is, we don't have a drainage ordinance right now, and we do have a stormwater management plan that was adopted in 2019, but it's pretty well outdated with some of the changes in the legislation. And so what the company wants to do is take our rough draft and that stormwater management plan, rewrite them so they all use the same verbiage and they all use the same type of calculations for runoff. And so the drainage plan complements the stormwater management plan, which will complement the floodplain management plan or whatever it is he's going to come up with, and there won't be any confusion. I've had one environmental engineer, this lady from Texas, calling and wanting to know what our water management standards were, and I had the pleasure of telling her we don't have any. And she was a little bit miffed because they really don't know what the rules of the game are if there's no standards out there for them to go by. She didn't tell me this, but I think it has to do with the new Casey's truck stop that's going in over on Lynchburg. And all that water is going to hit Indiana.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm in favor. If you really think, if you think about the millions, I'm talking millions that Clinton just had to invest in the combined sewer overflows. Sure. And then if we don't have a good plan for your stormwater and getting everything together and up to date, you're just spinning your wheels. And I think what Ron's suggestion is, I'm all favor.
I don't know if that has to be a motion or whatever, how you guys want to do it.
Doesn't hurt to do it.
Yeah, doesn't hurt, yeah.
So Bob, you're making the motion?
Yes.
Bob makes the motion, who wants to
Support
second?
the-
I'll even second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Who seconded?
Brian.
Brian.
Okay.
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, folks.
Yes. And need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second that motion.
Second by Brandon. We're out of here. See you next meeting.
40 to 31, 14 minutes and 23 seconds to go.
Old Brad, not fast. All right, so we're still gonna record until BZA.
Who's
gets
that?
up
Purdue's
here.
ahead. That Rutgers is a tough place to play.
Yeah.
I think they've got beat the last 2 years there.
Yes, they have.
I'm telling you, as a master gardener grad, I should have caught that pesticide herbicide redundancy.
Just put this in writing.
Oh, did you
It's
see that
it's
one?
just ingrained in a lot of people.
Yeah.
Pesticide.
Pesticides kill pests. Herbicides kill herbs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Running out of binders.
They're all, anything that's a nuisance is a pest, whether it be a fungus or a weed. They're all pests. Doesn't matter if they have 4 legs or 2 leaves. Or 6 legs. 6 legs.
6 legs, there you
Or
go.
4
Doesn't
6
the,
legs or 4 legs.
BZA
You
gotta
guys
go?
are still on
Don't think
camera.
I go next
She's
so
trying
they
to
can
get
get that
you used to
president.
it.
You today.
Well, that's what I heard.
I'm not on it.
We'll talk to
Well, that's the reason why we're looking at this drain up in Rileyburg. We established, so then must be reestablished and get it on the county roster the correct way, then we can go after that grant. Otherwise,
Are we still on camera? So am I the president of
it's
the,
just like this property up there. It says, hey, we've spilled so much gasoline, well, and then we still there. That corner is gonna be in our family for the next 1,000 years, so we can't get rid of it, you know? And you don't want it to be that way. Yeah. Well, we're trying. Yeah, I've got a lot of files on Fairview Drainage that they had done years ago, but they don't know where any of it ends up.
That felt like a long time.
do you want to be president next time?
Yeah, you're doing such a good job.
I was thinking Al, I've done it just now, but I got one more year left.
What do I do?
Yeah.
Have a suggestion for
Are you retiring after this term?
Yeah, I don't like it.
You ready to? Really? Enough fun?
Hey, I think I saw enough. Carrie, so watch.
Where are we recorded right now?
Oh, yes, well.
It's rolling.
Where are we gonna put John?
Just a question. I don't know if I should ask it publicly. I'll ask it. I will ask it publicly.
I don't think the audio is really great
Think it's
though, on YouTube.
John, you
That's okay.
I've heard people complain about it. I haven't watched it for a while. No, commissioner meetings. Yeah, they heard complaints.
or should I move over to the middle?
Airway, Tommy.
So they gotta come back to us and negotiate the contract.
Whitney?
So they're gonna negotiate a new contract.
How we doing? So you're going to I've had 2 surgeries the past 2 months.
All right, I got everything.
Are you happy with it? I mean, my wife was great. My wife had her
this
done
chair
in
sinks.
September.
Yes.
Brand new knee put in.
I kept sitting there, I'm
She's
like-
going like mad.
Yeah, the first surgery. I looked over.
Did you accuse him of that?
I did not. Because after a while, I realized what was going on.
Good luck. Thank you.
We're gonna move this chair for you.
See you, Larry.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just got put on by the area plan.
All
What you got
right.
last year? Okay.
There you go.
We don't have to do the pledge again.
All right, yep, good seeing you.
It's good to see you. He's got the little chair now.
He's got the sinking
Oh,
chair now.
you're supposed to sit in this one because it sinks.
Oh.
You're all right, sitting low.
I don't mind.
Okay.
That's a low rider
It
chair.
is.
Ready?
It's not broken, so.
Do I bang this first?
Next thing I know,
Call to order the January 9th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Travis Newman,
Here.
John Graves,
Here.
Barbara Phillips,
Here.
Judy Palanci,
Here.
and Joe Ellis.
here.
All right, we have everyone here. The minutes are from, I gave all my copies away.
June 13th.
Okay, we did meet later in the year,
That's
but
it,
we
okay.
did, it was a joint meeting, so, these are just the last BZA minutes.
Okay, if everyone can review those minutes, and then someone needs to make a motion to accept them.
Oh, you don't have a copy?
Not enough copies.
Yeah, it just didn't get handed in.
I would move the BZA approve the June 13th of 2024 meeting minutes as written.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in a, agreement, say aye.
Aye.
All right. The current officers are Barbara is the chair and Judy is the vice chair.
I'm okay with doing the president again, are you okay with doing the vice?
I'm okay unless someone else wants to step forward.
Am I president or chairman?
Chairman.
Okay,
You're chair, she's vice chair.
okay. Does anybody else,
Joe might be a motion.
Really?
I make a motion to keep the 2024 chair and vice chair.
okay,
I would second that motion.
thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Do I need to abstain?
No.
Were you an aye?
I was an aye, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I got you. I got my motion short. And that's all we got
Is that
for this
it?
one, so we can adjourn at
Just,
7:30
can I just I just had one thing I just wanted to bring up.
on record, on recording.
That would be
Okay.
fine. I was contacted by RJ Donovan, because I had attended the public meeting on the I-6374 development, and he wanted to know my opinion, on that development. And I just stated to him, and kind of publicly stating that on, any, project that might come in front of the BZA, that I won't make a public opinion. I would not give a public opinion, that I will remain neutral. And so I don't want to discuss any, anything about that project with him. So, and I just thought, making that public. I did say though that, my concern was the fact that, the public was not informed of the meeting, and, that at the BZA meeting here, it was treated, I thought, somewhat nonchalantly or rather demeaning, that the public should even be invited, and that, they were going to inform the public by putting it in the newspaper in Terre Haute, which I thought was ludicrous. And he agreed. He said he has in turn contacted everyone who gave a phone number who attended that meeting, and is also aware that there will be an additional public hearing. So we sort of left it at that. He did bring up that he is going to bring, I'm assuming before the commissioners, that they want to create some type of news advocating system, and he was looking at a text messaging system that all Vermilion County government agencies would have access to put just a general statement, we're having a meeting on this day, or a meeting is canceled, or there's a shot clinic, vaccination clinic on this day, or whatever, and that people would have to sign up for it. And what did I think about that? And I said, we've got to get something that lets people know that we're having meetings or not having meetings. So, and I did let him know that you had sent cards out, and that there was also people were informed to let their neighbors know. So
Right. So this afternoon, I did go to Perrysville and drop off postcards for the meeting on January 22nd. That's the other public hearing, yes. On January 22nd, 6 o'clock at the 4-H building there at the fairgrounds. And I put poster up or a flyer up at the post office in Perrysville and the Handy Mart, and then I went on to Covington. Even though the post offices were closed today, I dropped them, in the box, so they'll be out they should have them no later than Monday from the 22nd.
Who did you send them to?
Everyone that lives in that district.
Okay.
And I also had it posted on Facebook today, and then I had Eric share it as well on Vermilion County, Vermilion Park level, whatever his name is. So it's on there as well. So trying to get it out so people are aware.
What time is that meeting?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Not that.
Thanks.
You can have it. You done, Jim?
yeah.
I'd move we adjourn.
I second.